The last part of Unit 1 that we have to talk about is what's called Laws of Logic. So this piece of paper you should hopefully have in front of you. If not, you need to pause this video and make sure you have this worksheet in front of you. And because this will be going in our notes, you will also be making sure that you're highlighting what we need to highlight. So this is the last part of Unit 1. So you will have a test, not next class because I'm not here, but you will have tests the following class from that. That covers everything we've talked about so far. So I believe that's next Wednesday. Unless you're watching this video years from now where that is completely unapplicable. However, it's applicable for 2018. So, we have two famous laws in logic where we're able to draw valid conclusions from. So the first one is the law of detachment. So law of detachment has two things that happen. The first thing is we have to assume the conditional is true. Okay, that's the first thing. We have to assume no matter what the conditional statement is, we're assuming it's true no matter what. Okay, so yes, I know you can probably argue. However, we're always assuming it's true. Second thing, which is what it always is I'm given the hypothesis and I have to conclude the conclusion. So, if we take a look at this, it says if an animal is a dog, then it has a tail. Reggie is a dog. So what can I conclude? Reggie has a tail. At any point I go too fast, make sure you pause so you can reference this at your own pace. So some people like to view this with symbols. So I'm now going to also show you how this works with symbols. So an animal is a dog. I'm going to give that P. And it has a tail. I'm going to give it Q. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to write P arrow Q. This is how we write it in symbolic notation. Now it says Reggie is a dog. So since Reggie is a dog, does Reggie is a dog relate to P or does it relate to Q? Well, it relates to P because that's a dog. So I have P. So, therefore, I can conclude Q. Reggie has a tail, which is Q. So notice if you look at this symbolic notation, start at P, go to Q. Notice the arrow is pointing to Q. Does the arrow ever point back to P? No. So I can't go from Q to P, but I can go from P to Q. So I have P to Q, I give you P, I can assume Q. That's going to help us out here in a second, which is why I'm talking about it. Let's look at the next one. I will walk to school or I will drive to school. I do not walk to school. So, what can I conclude? Since I'm not walking to school, that must mean I am driving to school. So, I will drive to school. So, if we turn this into symbols, I will walk to school, which is P. I will drive to school, which is Q. So, P arrow Q. I did not walk to school. So since I walked to school is P, I did not walk to school must be squiggle P. Oop, and I just did that totally wrong. And no, I hope you're all sitting there going like, she did it wrong. All right, let's try this again. It's not P arrow Q because it's not if then. It's P V Q. So then the next sentence would be squiggle P. So therefore, I can conclude Q. Okay, so now, if I look at the next one, if it is raining, then the sidewalk is wet. The sidewalk is wet. What can you conclude? Just because the sidewalk is wet, can you conclude that it's raining? No. So this is what's called an invalid statement. I can't go backwards. Just because the sidewalk is wet, that does not mean it's raining. It could have snowed and the ice could have melted. There could be a sprinkler on. You could have a water balloon fight. You could have taken a water bottle and spilled it all over the sidewalk. There could be a million different reasons why the sidewalk is wet. I cannot assume it's raining. which is why it's invalid. Let's look at the symbols so I can show you why it's invalid. It is raining, gets a P. The sidewalk is wet, gets a Q. The sidewalk is wet, which is Q. So I have P, arrow, Q. Now I have Q. Since I'm at Q, can I assume P? No, because the arrow doesn't go that way. So therefore, question mark, it's invalid. Okay? So that's how that property, or that law of logic works. Let's now talk about the law of syllogism. So if we talk about the law of syllogism, the law of syllogism, I actually just call let me not write in a highlighter. I actually just call it the transitive property. In Algebra 1, you learned the transitive property. Does anybody remember what the transitive property is? It tells me if x equals b and b equals 3, then what can I conclude? If x and b are the same and b and 3 are the same, that tells me x must equal 3. Okay? So the law of syllogism is basically that. Look at the middleman. The middleman basically goes away to where I'm left with the two ends, x equals 3. So if we look at example 1, if you have chocolate chips, then you'll bake Miss Mayfield, who was me, cookies. I used to be Miss Mayfield, now I'm Miss Plain. If you bake Miss Mayfield, we'll call Miss Plain, cookies, then she will smile. Notice the conclusion of the first sentence matches the hypothesis of the second sentence. The middleman can be crossed out. So then it says, if I have chocolate chips, which is right here, what can I conclude? Mrs. Plain will smile. And you can write Miss Mayfield if you want, or you can write Mrs. Plain. It's easier to write Plain. Mrs. Plain will smile. And I really, really, really recommend you all test that theory. If you bake Mrs. Plain chocolate chips, if you have chocolate chips, then you'll bake Mrs. Plain cookies. And if you bake Mrs. Plain cookies, then she's going to smile. Even if you make me a burnt cookie, I'll still smile, but I probably won't eat it. However, test that theory. Let's look at example 2. Example 2. If you understand the law of syllogism, then you'll do well on the test. If you do well on the test, then you'll get a passing grade. Middleman can be sliced out because they match. If you understand the law of syllogism, which is right here, what can I conclude? You will get a passing grade. Okay? Hopefully you're okay with that. Go ahead and flip your paper. If we take a look at this, it says read the statements and answer the question and write the symbolic notation, then indicate the law we used. We didn't write the symbolic notation on law of syllogism, but it's basically the same thing as detachment. It's just with 2 if-then sentences versus 1. I'll show you how to do it on these ones. So it says if an angle measures between 0 and 90 degrees, then it is acute. Angle A is 47 degrees. What can you conclude? Angle A is acute. What law? Detachment. Friendly piece of advice? Detachment has 1 if-then sentence. Law of syllogism has 2 or more if-then sentences. So, look at number 2. Oh wait, we've got to turn it into symbols. So, an angle measures between 0 and 90 degrees. So I'm going to say A. Then, it is acute. Cute. Angle A is 47 degrees, which is A. Therefore, C. If you look at your next one, if you feed your bird, then it will be happy. If your bird is happy, then it will sing. Middleman cancels out. You fed your bird, so it will sing, which is the law of syllogism. Oh, if I can spell. Syllogism. Okay? So now if we convert this to colors, or to symbols, not colors. Ha. If you feed your bird, so I'm going to feed my bird, then it will be happy. If my bird is happy, then it will sing. So now I do, therefore, middleman's crossed out. If I feed my bird, then it will sing. Typically, your conclusion for syllogism is supposed to be an if-then sentence, but on these problems I've been helping you. I want you to try 3 and 4. Pause the video. Try 3 and 4 on your own. Unpause the video. I'll go over it. Number 3, if it's foggy, then it's cold. It is cold. What can you conclude? Hopefully you wrote this. Invalid. Why? If it's foggy, then it's cold. It is cold. Just because it's cold doesn't mean it's foggy. I can't go backwards on the arrow. A number is rational or irrational. Pi is not rational, so I can conclude pi is irrational. And this was a special law of detachment. Okay? Let's go ahead and let's look at these ones. Given the 2 premise statements, determine a third conclusion statement and state the law used. I save up money or I don't go on the trip. I go on the trip. So I can conclude what? Therefore, I saved money. Okay, look at the next one. If I don't help my brother, then he'll fall off the ladder. If my brother falls off the ladder, then he will get hurt. Middleman crosses out. I would write everything that's left. If I don't help my brother, then he will get hurt. So if I go back and I talk about the laws, the first one is detachment, because there's one if-then sentence. Number 2, syllogism, because 2 or more if-then sentences. Notice my conclusion is an if-then sentence. That's how it's supposed to be. So now we're looking at symbols. You're going to draw a conclusion, and then you're going to tell me whether or not it's detachment or syllogism. P arrow Q, given P. Therefore, I can conclude Q. It's detachment. If I look at number 2, it says B arrow, that's supposed to be a squiggle Q, and that's supposed to be a squiggle too. Anything that doesn't look like a squiggle is a squiggle. B arrow, squiggle Q, arrow R. Those cancel out. Therefore, B arrow R, syllogism. Pause the video, try the last 3, unpause the video, we'll go over it together. Number 3, hopefully you wrote is invalid because you can't go from R to Q. Number 4, I have lots of middlemans. I can cross out my P's and I can cross out my R's, so I can say therefore, squiggle S, arrow T, syllogism. And number 5, B or N, not N, so therefore B, detachment. So hopefully you're okay with the laws of logic, so you can keep going with what's expected for you to complete today, or you can be done based on whatever you have finished.